in-depth race recaps.
He's shown speed, he's shown dominance at other racetracks.
Pit stops and strategy.
Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Race strategy, man.
Fantasy racing insights.
Talking about being a team in the summer. We did it. Good job, boys.
Your weekly home for everything Ryan, Blaney, and Team 12.
Good job, Timmy. Here's to many more, fellas. Thank you.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
Let's go race for a championship.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 180 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we are here to break down Ryan Blaney's run in the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway.
His top 5 finish.
Top 5, okay, yeah. Let's
First top 5 at Darlington in his career.
You're just you're already on that power positivity train, Steve, and that's good because I was going to need it.
Took my vitamins.
Yeah, last night was a little bit rough for me, and I was definitely concerned as to what kind of shape I would be in when we sat down to record this episode. Unfortunately, it's not our first rodeo when it comes to coming in and trying to recap a race where something maybe kind of sort of devastating happened, when you feel like victory was just kind of ripped away from you, and there's really nothing you can do about it as a fan except for try to do your best to support the guys and support the team, support Ryan, and we'll do our best to do that. We'll do our best to try to lift up some of the other fans too. That I know there's a few in our Discord chat that that watches the races with us every week that was definitely feeling a little bit down last night. A lot of people felt some anger. A lot of people were upset and confused and didn't just understand what was going on. So we're going to try to bring some facts to the table, even though they won't help you with your feelings. And then we'll try to spin things forward to next weekend or this weekend's race at Bristol. So that's where I'm at. I guess I'm just full of words to keep talking, so I don't have to think about what happened. But how are you?
I saw a lot of like toasters with bathtub memes and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I don't have a bathtub, so just a shower, so I don't have to worry about that. But no, you know me, I usually am pretty right off the bat. I'm usually like, but I found a way to, kind of get it out there and then start thinking about all the different things that were positive, all the good things that we did see, the excitement that you get versus the disappointment is bad. It is, but the excitement was that exciting too. I mean, the rally that we saw, and as we'll describe those laps coming up here, was just spectacular. The shrinking of the lead and the pure watching him plow through field and just get there. So I just got to take that part of it. And the fact that they always have this speed almost every week now, it's just these other circumstances have always seemed to come across and cause not to for it not to come to the point that it should, but it will. And if you keep plugging away, it will. So.
And I mean, I thought this was really going to be a big week for the team for multiple reasons. One, because it was throwback weekend, and the paint scheme was a throwback to Ryan's dad's victory at Charlotte in the NASCAR Busch Series, the Haas Avocados car. So a lot of people were excited about that. I think Ryan really wanted to have a really good showing in the car, possibly put that in victory lane and have a kind of a great memory. It was also a week coming off of a top 10 at Martinsville that, when we had this podcast last week, kind of I expressed it as another one of those where it's like, man, he didn't have a top 10. He finished, did he have a top 10 last week, or he finished it just outside the top 10? It was like 11th, right? So a stronger run than they've had the previously with the 3 DNFs. So I thought this was an important week to come back and rebound, to build on kind of the success or mid-mild success of the previous week and get things turned around. They've been okay in the point standings because of getting stage points. Going into this race weekend, they'd scored the most stage points in the entire series. So they're staying in it championship-wise because of that. They just haven't found victory lane, hadn't found the finish line for a few races in a row there. So it was something to build on. What do you think about, we talked about this in a pre-race chat we had, pre-race live chat that we had this week. about Throwback Weekend, where I heard the Teardown guys talk about it. I heard the Stacking Pennies guys talk about it, being a little bit upset that it actually even became a topic of discussion, a negative topic of discussion this week. And I think in our chat, we still landed on we were okay with it. We're okay with the spirit of it, and I liked what somebody had suggested about maybe turning it into just more of a retro weekend, to where we just celebrate the history of the sport.
The people that they asked, first off, when they said that on Stacking Pennies, what they were talking about is how it ended up being a negative thing because they asked certain people. I guess there's certain people you just shouldn't put a microphone in front of. I always tell a story about one of my first encounters with a professional athlete. And when I say first, I mean going back decades, right? And it was a guy by the name of Bob Golick, played nose tackle for the Cleveland Browns, right? Went to a summer camp practice, and all the guys after practice pretty much ran into the building, right? They went to go lift, and they had they signed 2 things. And they ran. I turned around and looked all the way back to the practice field. Bob Golick was still signing autographs. He signed everybody's autograph that wanted one till they were done. Took pictures with whoever till they were done. And that is the kind of person they should be interviewing in situations. The people that get it. Kyle Busch, of all people, in his interview says this is for the fans. He gets it. And that's the funniest thing coming from him, because sometimes he can be a little bit of an old curmudgeon about certain things, or having to deal with the media, or having to deal with, but that's the person that should, be in charge of the poll. They put a poll up last night with Jeff and Jordan during the middle of theirs, and it asked the fans what they thought. 70% of the people that were watching last night, of 300 some people that were watching, 70% said yes, continue doing it. Does anybody have to be required to do it? No. They're not saying you have to require everybody to do it, because they didn't. Half the teams didn't have a throwback scheme. I think they said 19 of them didn't. But for the most part, the ones that did had the spirit and the idea and the concept of throwing back to something or somebody that they, was important to them in the sport. And that's all you really should have, is somebody who within your organization, somebody within the family, somebody within the sponsorship level. You could have sponsors doing Menards was a good example. They were showing on somewhere where they showed 4 or 5 old logos of Menards. They could do that. They could have the sponsor throw back to their sponsorship or what their logo looked like 40 years ago. So there's so many things you can do still and have fun with. And some of the teams, like the Wood Brothers, did that IndyCar, right? And it was green and yellow. Did you see the uniforms that they wore on pit road? Some of the guys.
I didn't see the uniforms. I saw that they had like a whole bunch of friends and family all there for the event.
They were green and red.
Yeah.
They were, instead of the red and white, where the white would normally be, was green to match the car. So they threw more into it than just the car. So there's just so many people who are in the spirit of it. I love that part of it too. TV does a great job during practice and qualifying. They show you what the other car looked like originally, and you can decide, and we can argue about it all week about whether or not it should have been green instead of blue. You know what I mean? Right? And it brought a whole week's worth of discussion on stuff like that. So to interview 1 or 2 other guys who were just like, oh, it's run its course, you don't get it. You don't get it. I don't know how you get to be voted most popular guy every year, because the rest of us love it. And I don't know who, so all your fans turn around and say we don't like it either? Or are you mad because your scheme wasn't very good this year and people were picking on it for 2 weeks going into it? Maybe that's part of it. But yeah, I totally enjoy seeing what the different cars are going to look like. And the Xfinity Series does a great job too. There's a bunch of them in the Xfinity Series that throw back to older drivers and other older owners, and So yeah, just keep doing it, having a good time with it. They talked last night on the one podcast about the parade they have coming into town.
Yeah,
You
parade's
know,
great.
and then older drivers, and we found you found a picture because Penske posted of Dave standing next to the car. And to me that was just a great moment because of 19 years ago he won that race in that car, and there it is, a replica of some sort of it or a throwback to it, and it's like bringing it all together for us as fans. So yeah, these guys who are like, let's run its course. I think you're starting to run your course. I hate to say that, but
So, I mean, I wanted to at least discuss that a little bit. Just to, again, I feel like I'm pushing off our more intense discussion about what happened over the weekend.
yeah.
The NASCAR Xfinity Series race, unlike the previous week, I thought went, nice and clean and smooth. And Brandon Jones finally breaks a 98 race winless streak or something like that. Puts a Menard's car in victory lane. Definitely, there was a point on Sunday where I thought we were looking at a Menard sweep of the weekend, but kudos to him for kind of getting back at it. I know there's a lot of good runs in that race. Even Harrison Burton at times, he's been pretty impressive in the 25 car, putting that thing up front too. So good to see the limited amount of Fords in that series. Still showing some strength, even though there was a big shakeup with the way Haas kind of changed up last year. So not much else to talk about when it comes to the Xfinity Series race. So if it's anyone's first time listening, first time watching, wherever you're watching from, it's time for our weekly in-depth race recap. We're going to go through practice and qualifying. We're going to talk about pit stops. We're going to talk about strategy, cautions, passes, anything else important that has happened during the race. Our mission is to just bring facts, especially in the wake of this finish. Lots of opinions, but also lots of video and audio and data that's been provided to everybody that will at least give a glimpse to people that are open to understanding the truth behind things that happened, can get that understanding. So we'll share some of that along the way. And every week, our man Steve right over here is the one that takes the notes, provides the report, and I'm here to listen intently and comment as he goes.
Yes, let's get to Saturday's practice first with Group 1. Once again, Brian had a better finish, and where he is in the standings in the matrix puts him in Group 2 where he needs to be from now on, hopefully the rest of the year. But in Group 1, here's the thing is, we're going to talk about the quickest lap thing where one lap, quick lap, all that stuff, because TV concentrates on that. But the reality is I try to dig into some statistics about 20 lap average and 30 lap average and things like that. But early on, the 77 has the quickest lap in that first group. The best 10 lap average, though, is the 21 car. The best 15 lap average is the 21 car. And that looks like a good matrix to me, because that they're going to be pretty similar. But a little over halfway through, the 42 car spins in 1 and 2, and this kind of screws up the anybody getting like a 25 or 30 lap average in that first grouping. So most laps in that session was 40 laps by the 99 car. We get to Group 2 here now. Ryan is single lap is P4 for the guys in his group. Okay, it shakes out to like P13 overall. But once again, first group goes out and lays rubber on the track. The second group, if it doesn't get cleared off, it's a little slipperier and so forth. So your times are not going to be anywhere near as good. As a matter of fact, the top time in Group 2 was the 24 car, which was only P6 overall. So, at one point, Ryan is following the 22 car and has to pass him 9 laps in. So this kind of thing hurts your single individual lap too if you're too close to the guy. But also, you're passing cars during practice. That's impressive, because that means you came up on him. You have more speed than he does, or better handling than he does, and you're already making moves. In that group, the 10 lap average for Group 2 was P2. which would have been P10 overall. So once again, versus the other group, it's hard to tell. 15 lap average now in that group is P1, and that's P5 overall. And then the 20 lap average is P1 overall, and that's, both groups. Not everybody in the first group got to the 20th lap because of the thing, but still over about 30 some cars that did do both. He was P1 at that point in 20 consecutive lap average, and then ends up being like the best 30 lap average of like about 15 or 16 cars that were able to do 30 laps. So once again, the best things to look at, especially on these tracks that are a little more than a mile or more, is that kind of thing. Because how well are you going to knock off these consistent laps during a race? They do a hot pit road entry at one point, but he got about 35 laps in. Now, when they go to qualify for the pole, Ryan is going out, I believe it was 29. Once again, the later you go out, the more things get picked up off the track. The line gets cleared off a little bit. You get to see other guys and what line they run. The 24 went like 3 or 4 spots before Ryan, if that tells you anything. So it wasn't anybody at the end of the whole thing that gets this. 24 just hooked up 1 and 2 better than anybody else. They show the ghost car situation on TV, and it's pretty well shown that through 1 and 2, he was way better than anybody else. But Ryan ends up 0.063 back in P5 at that point. And, I'm sorry, he's 0.063 back from P5. He ends up 9th. He ends up P5 when he goes out. The rest of the cars running ends up 9th overall, but he was only less than a 10th from making his way all the way to the top 5. So pretty good qualifying. He's pretty happy with the car. He thanks everybody on the radio as he gets out. Says it was a good day on Saturday, and they got something to work with.
And for people that listen to the show every week, you know that I'm constantly bringing up qualifying and the importance of qualifying, and not necessarily needing this team to go out and sit on the pole every week or even qualify top 5 every week. I think from a points position, they need to qualify in the top 10 or close to the top 10 every week, to where he only has to make up a few spots to guarantee that they get stage points based on what the strategies of the day are. Now that can impact things. And I said they need to turn things around in this fashion, and they managed to do that this week. They had some single car speed. Like you said, he ended up 4th in his group, but probably maybe could have even run a little bit faster. But they had, as usual, though. I mean, this team since halfway through probably 2022, all the way through 2023, and all the way through 2024 and 2025 is a long run car. I mean, I can't even remember the last time they had a true short run car. So incredible long run speed. We saw that play out in this race. I was optimistic going into the race, thinking about Darlington and how in the next gen era, even though it's a hard track to drive and guys get into the wall, the composite bodies have, for the most part, unless you really hit the wall, you're not going to lose a tire or anything like that. You might break a toe link, but there's not usually a lot of caution. So we did see some long runs in this race. We'll talk about the unfortunate times when cautions did come out, or maybe when a caution was thrown, really changed the entire complexion of the race. That, wow, there was some debris out there, probably maybe didn't need to be thrown when it was thrown, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So I was optimistic. Like I said, I thought this was a pivotal week for the team, for them to, capitalize on the momentum from the week before, even though it wasn't a super amazing run. It was a decent run, and they needed that. And they come out off the truck super fast and qualify in the top 10, which is all I've been asking for in this team. So
yeah, so
time to get ready with the race.
Yeah, we get to Sunday, stages of 90, 185, 293, 11 sets of tires, and qualifying a little better gives you a better pit stall selection, right? Pit stall number 35, which is a little bit weird on pit road because it's not an opening. It literally goes over like the tunnel that is on the front stretch there. So they come around the corner of this where the tunnel is, and then the wall kind of veers back on an angle. So they got nobody basically behind them because of this. And then it is the 88 car will be in front of them. And the 88 car actually ends up being there most of the day. So,
yep.
we get for the start here, the initial start, the 24 takes, of course, the top. So lane choice, as much as you can on this track, you want to be in the top lane because sooner or later it sorts out to one lane, and the one lane is going to be running better on the high side. Literally at the start, Tim says, race the racetrack, because that is really the key. You do want to pass guys, but you really want to worry about running consistent lap times, let other guys make their mistakes, and you'll get them. Lap 2 here, they get clear to the high lane, and they're in 10th. At lap 3, we're at P8, and at lap 4, we get a caution for the 5 car. Now, only 4 laps in, you would think, well, everybody just stays out, right? Normally, yes. Not this track. I mean, 4 laps on your tires is already a half a second a lap slower. So pretty much everybody comes in. Jonathan says we're leaning toward a number 5 here, which whatever that is, Ryan's copy, which is pitting for 4 tires here. Now, first pit stop of the day. Let's talk about it because everybody's
not good.
Well, here's the thing about, and we're going to talk about pit stops a little bit.
Yep.
Try not, but not everything is on the pit crew. Okay, everybody wants to blame the pit crew because they go in this way and then come out that way, right? But Ryan went deep on the sign. Now, what does that mean?
Way deep. Not even a little deep.
Way deep. It meant 2 things. One, he ran over the hose. They had to spend an extra second yanking the hose out from underneath the front of the car. People don't see that. People don't realize that. Even watching the in-car camera, you can't always tell that because the in-car camera, you see the guys run across the front of the car, but you can't see what they're doing over there, underneath there. So that's the first thing that happens. The second thing that happens is he has to back up out of the pit stall to get around the 88 car because he's now in too deep. And the 88 is angled in because the 88 come in around him. So, and Ryan says that. He says that he made that. And they back that up and they're back to P24 here. They missed the sign. The leader chooses the outside. Ryan from there takes the outside. So the restart lap 9, by lap 11 up to 26th at lap 12 on the outside in 1 and 2 up to 24th at lap 14, passing the 20 car to 23rd. At lap 15 passing the 42 and the 77 up to 20th. At lap 20 passes the 21, the 3 up to 18th. Lap 23 passing the 1 car up to 17th. And then at lap 24 we get a caution for the 77.
Kills the strategy because I know you mentioned that people won't stay out. Some people did stay out, and some managed to kind of stick up there a little bit. But between this caution and then the fact that they lost the spots that they lost because of the driving through the box on pit road, really kind of just put them in a bad spot here. So I don't think anybody wanted to see this yellow come out at this point.
Yeah,
and that'll be the theme of the day.
Yeah. Ryan says we're tight back here. It didn't help us any. I didn't help us any, he says.
Yeah.
He's referring to himself on the pit stop. So, he takes blame when it's him. Jonathan says, bring it to us. Stop it short. In P17, out P15. Okay. They gained 2 spots here. Now, once again, and Skip brought it up on Stacking Pennies today, that he's trying to get a uniform pit time. I usually what I was doing was taking the NASCAR time off the NASCAR app and trying to cut a certain amount off of it to try to match what Skip was giving me, but it doesn't always work that way. So if we use just the NASCAR pit time, it's like a 10.1, okay? But this 10.01 gains 2 positions, so that tells you, it's pretty good, even though it doesn't sound like an 8 or whatever, But once again, the times that Skip seems to have are a little bit lesser, so I don't know how they're doing that. And Ryan talks about some sort of biometrical device that he was wearing too at this point. So I don't know what they asked him to do.
Yeah. I know a little bit about these things, and if you've ever watched the documentary series Welcome to Wrexham, or if you've seen any professional soccer players in their warm-up gear and stuff, they wear this device that actually almost looks like a sports bra, actually, which the first time I ever saw one, I thought it was weird. But yeah, it's just a device that that you wear. There's actually a module in the back, and that's what he's complaining about the most, is that module in the back is getting readings on him, like, his body temperature, heart rate, probably like oxygen levels, like all that kind of stuff. To I don't know who's taking it, if it's a NASCAR thing, or if the team wants to know how he's reacting to things. I mean, lots of sports are using this type of stuff. I know the pit crews during the week often are wearing these devices as well during like pit practice and their warm-ups and exercises. So what he's feeling is that module kind of digging into his back in the seat, and it's not it can't be a great feeling. And if you're a NASCAR driver, I mean, they try to do as much as they possibly can to make sure they are comfortable in a car, because little distractions like that can be big when you're sitting in a hot car, for hundreds of laps or hundreds of miles. And I was slightly concerned about it, but it was a little bit funny to hear him describing it like it's too late at that point. There's nothing you can do. And just imagine if he has that thing on, he has his cool suit on, he's got these tight belts on. I know people, think it's glamorous to be a NASCAR Cup Series driver, but it's definitely probably not for everybody.
Okay, ready for this here. The 24 taking the outside. Ryan on the inside moves himself up to row 6. So he gains a row or 2 just by taking the inside here. We're restarting lap 30, sorts out to P15. And here comes one of those fun segments of the race. Lap 31 passing the 71 up to 14th. At lap 34 passing the 34 up to 13th. At lap 41 passing the 6 up to 12th. Lap 43 passing the 38 up to 11th. At lap 44 passing the 11 up to 10th. At lap 46 passing the 45 up to 9th. Lap 49 passes the 54 up to 8th. At lap 55 we pass the 2 car to get to 7th. At lap 57 pass the 8 car to get to 6th. At lap 59 passing the 19 car to get to 5th. At lap 62 passing the 23 car to get to 4th.
Crazy. And honestly, this is what we wanted to see last week. This is what we expected to see last week, but man, this was insane.
Let him run and let him do his thing, right? Jonathan says we'll run this out if it stays, and at this point, the leader's still 24, of course, and we're about 12.761 seconds back of the leader. Now, at lap 70, all of a sudden, we're 10 seconds, 10.6 back. Lap 75, we're 6.97 seconds back. At lap 83, we get this caution for the 77 and the 35, right on the front stretch, right by the leader. So,
what do you think of the 77 driver, who's pretty prominent on social media? He put up a post yesterday or today, like basically saying, "Man, I'm tired of this bad luck."
Bad luck,
like,
yeah.
And I don't know. I don't remember where it was. It may have been on. Man, did I comment on his TikTok? Maybe I did. Goodness, I commented it somewhere, like saying I don't think he knows what the definition of luck is, because I don't think most of these incidents this week and weeks prior were luck. And I don't know if it was this one or the one before. The spins that he has sometimes are it might have been when he had his flat tire. Yeah, the spins look a little bit questionable too, which he's known to do that to bring out caution. So.
I've got here that Tim says the 88 is still in the lead lap here. Now, this pit stop, once again, like a 10.1, but the 23 and the 45 are both like in the 8s and the 9s here. So their stops were amazing. So go in P4, come out P6, just based on 2 guys that are doing this technique that,
we've talked about that pretty extensively, I think, on last week's podcast and in our chats during the week. And TV actually, when Hamlin does it at the end, because the JGR teams are also doing this, explains it really well. They showed it multiple times, just how the Jackman does this around the back kind of swing as they're coming around the car, that gets him an extra step on all the other guys to where he can get to the jack post and jack the other side of the car up. And that is where they are just destroying everybody else on pit road right now. So it's time for any of the teams that I know, like the Penske teams, to their credit, when the JGR and 2311 teams and stuff were experimenting with that everyone around the front choreography, they held off on that. And guess what? That doesn't exist anymore. Nobody does that anymore. Too risky.
They were right. They were too
This
risky.
one, though, I think it might be worth trying to figure this out because they've been doing this all year long pretty much, and they've been highly successful at it.
Yeah. So we were only going to get a restart with 2 laps to go here. And the 24 takes the outside. Ryan takes the inside, row 3. He sorts out the P7 here. The 24 wins the stage. Ryan ends up 7th. And Ryan talks about choosing the top versus losing a lane and so forth. But they're staying out here to ask him to kind of take care of fuel just in case. 24 takes the outside for the restart of stage 2. Ryan takes the inside into row 3 here. Restarting stage 2 at lap 99. Actually gets a good restart here up to 5th. At lap 105, same lap times as the leader and only 1.907 back. Once again, racing the track. Lap 111, we passed the 60 to get to 4th. At lap 114, passing the 23 to get to 3rd. And then at lap 115 in P3, about 2.519 back up to 24. At lap 120, the 24 and the 45 are kind of battling out front a little bit, and Ryan is getting closer to them. He's 1.88 back. Lap 123, Jonathan asks for a balance update because they know they'll be coming to a pit cycle at some point here. And Tim tells Jonathan, actually, it's probably on channel 2, that he sees the 24 putting tires up on the wall. Lap 130 here, they're only 6.38 back of the lead. And then at lap 131, the pitting cycle starts. And lap 135 here, the 6 gets the flat rear tire here. And Ryan is in P16. He pitted at this point already. And he's P16 lap down at that moment. At lap 137, he gets his lap back and he's 15th. But then they throw the caution on the next lap. Now, TV did a great job of showing this wheel nut coming off. They showed them picking it up, and from what I could tell, where they picked it up was not anywhere near the racing groove. That's the only part that's very, very irritating. And NASCAR has made a point to the drivers because they've talked about this on the radios. The drivers have. About how if there's a green flag cycle, they do not want to throw a caution if they can help it. They don't want to get everything scrambled and have to figure out lineups and have people laps down and have people having to take the wave arounds and and so forth. They don't want to have that happen if they can help it. And I think this was a situation where they could have helped it because the 6 car got off the track without losing the wheel. First off, he got off the track without losing the wheel.
Which honestly, kudos to him. He had a tire down and a loose wheel at that moment and somehow made it around.
Yeah. So,
I will say that if you want to know that lug nut, it was on the front stretch all the way down by the inside wall on the sponsor paint where literally nobody runs down there at all. I will say kudos to them for holding the flag on the 6. The 6 was very slow, but he was down on the apron moving around the track because if they throw that at the moment of the incident, Ryan is in big trouble.
Oh, he ends up
having to wave around because he was a lap down at the time that the thing actually flew off. I think at that point NASCAR really only knew about the flat tire. I don't know if TV tipped him off about seeing the lug nut actually fly away. But thank goodness they didn't throw the caution at that point, or it would have been much, much worse for them. So but yeah, I was very happy. I was nervous, and then I see the 12 unlap himself, and I was like, okay, that's at least good. He won't have to wave because I was waiting. I'm like, they're going to find this thing somewhere. It's not it didn't just hop up over that was the only thing I thought. I'm like, maybe it hopped up over the safer barrier and that's it. But
yeah, it was, I think it was right on the front stretch, but not anywhere no, it was near the wall on the front stretch. So it wasn't anywhere near the inside wall, not the outside wall. So it's nowhere near where anybody would race or run over it or anything. It was just they could have picked it up next time there was a caution for something else. Really, they're pitting here in 15th and come out 12th, and I got about a 9.7 is, adjusted time. Like I said, it'd be about 10.2 is what NASCAR says. So 24 takes the outside here. Ryan on the outside, restarting at lap 143. At 145 here, we pass the 33 and the 1, get the 10th. Lap 146, passing the 45 and the 48 to get the 8th. At lap 152, passing the 10 to get the 7th. At lap 155, passing the 54 to get the 6th. And at lap 157, we get a stripe. Pretty good.
It was a pretty big one.
Pretty big one there. They were checking pictures on it just to make sure, because it wasn't just your normal rear end tagging. It kind of went and kind of made him hit the right front a little bit too. So lap 162 here, Ryan's talking about needing freed up a little bit. Tim says we're the fastest car on the track. So the stripe was just a stripe, and it really didn't do any damage. At lap 165 here, up to P6 and 5.68 back of the 24, who's still leading. Lap 170, we pass the 20, get the P5, and it's 5.69 back of the 24 at this point. Lap 176, the 35 has an issue on the backstretch right in front of us. A little bit of a scary moment there. It kind of slows us down for a hair there. Lap 180 here, P5 still 3.5 back of the 24. And this is that long run thing. Sure, the 24 will look awesome all day out front, but boy, if some of these stupid things didn't happen during the race and we just had a long run when we got close enough to him, we'd have passed him and been gone, Lap 182 here, we passed the 21 to get to P4 at lap 185. The 24 wins the stage with Ryan, P4 here. Talks about tightening it up a hair, maybe half of a number, and that's not much. These situations, so that's pretty good. He doesn't need a lot of change on balance,
Great stage points. Were you concerned at all about the amount of tires that were left? Because they used an extra set at the beginning of the race, so they were behind a set most of the race. So I parts I was concerned, but TV at one point did come on and say everyone was going to be okay. But just the way things were trending with all the cautions, I was like, oh goodness, I hope that doesn't bite them in some fashion. But I know the Cup guys get a pretty decent number.
They get more than, they're not like the Xfinity to the truck where they give them like one extra, versus however many pit stops they think they should have. They usually have 3 or 4 extra sets. So yeah, I wasn't really worried about it. As a matter of fact, if anything, you could have took the first set of tires and, basically use them as scuffs if you needed to, because it was only 3 or 4 actual laps on them. This next pit stop, and once again, if you want to listen to an actual description of what happened, there's a problem with the jack on the left-hand side. TV actually showed this from a weird view because it was actually from a view on the other side of the track. So you didn't actually see what happened. It was on the left side. And according to what Skip had said on Stacking Pennies today, he basically missed the jack post. I don't know, what happened there. I know they broke a jack already once this year, so this kind of slowed them down a little bit. But you know what? It's funny. Allegedly, Ryan's radio wasn't plugged in when they got back on the track. It was odd because one, nobody was happy in this moment. Right. We already know they had the issue on the very first stop that was a driver error sliding through the box. So this is kind of the second one that's happened during the day. Everything else has been pretty solid. So, and Ryan's not normally the guy. There's been 2 or 3 races this year where he's come on after a stop like this and says like, we cannot lose track position. This one was pretty devastating. Go from 4th all the way back to, I think they're around 16th when they go to restart. So the fact that it was just dead silent, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if that's good or bad. And then I was surprised, and then all of a sudden you hear Ryan pipe up, 1 2 1 2. Do you guys got me? Yeah. And they're like, yeah, we got you. And he's like, oh, my radio stopped working. I had to switch to the backup and I'm moving all this stuff. And I was like, oh, everything and unplug everything. Yeah. Make sure there was now, because TV at one point shows a clip of Kyle Busch, as the kids would say, crashing out at one point during this race on his radio. I fear that it's really good that only Ryan and Ryan alone really knows what he said after that pit stop specifically, because somehow the radio went off. So that's good, because we didn't. I've mentioned it before. It's just frustrating because I always feel like
Fox and NBC has a designated person
Mhm.
aside from our friend Nicole Stellanarius on Twitter that's monitoring the radios. I feel like they have somebody that's like, oh, Blaney just
Yep.
lost it, or Blaney went off. Let's get it. Let's
Yep.
cut that
That's,
clip and make sure we get it on the broadcast. When
yep.
literally half the field is doing
They
doing
do it
that,
all the
but
time.
he gets
Everybody.
the highlight reel. So I
Yeah.
was very happy that he just happened to break his radio at that moment. So
We get the restart lap 194 from 16th here and he lost a row to be on the outside row, and it works out. Lap 195 here, we get a caution for the 21, and we're all the way to 14th. So we gained a couple positions just in one lap. Staying out here, 24 takes the outside. Ryan takes the outside. Now the one car, this was goofy on the choose. The one car was in front of Ryan, and he pump faked like he was going low, and then he went high. So it kind of
it's a little costly too.
yeah, lost a row based on that. But the restart lap 201 here sorts to P15. Lap 203 passes the 60 to get to 14. At lap 206 passes the 23 to get to 13. And at lap 208, we finally passed the one. And I say finally because for the couple laps after he passed the 23, he was behind the one. And somebody asked me about this today, and I said to them, I said that Ross Chastain thinks he is Ryan Newman out there. He thinks he can block everybody. The problem is he doesn't have the talent Ryan Newman had.
No, he's not strategic about it at all. I
No.
described him as a weapon because he was just door slamming guys. Now it was successful, but I think guys are afraid of him because Ryan did follow him through in some instances in this race past some other people, but it's because the one was just dive bombing people, door slamming them or making contact, and gosh, it was scary. It was scary to watch.
The pass was, I wanted to bring it up because of the pass itself. They come off of 2, and as they're coming off of 2, Ryan gets himself where his right
It was
front,
great.
was right underneath Chastain's left rear, and I don't even think he hit him. I think he arrowed him to the point where it made him loose, and then boom, Ryan was just gone.
Honestly, now unfortunately it didn't end up to be amazing. He used that pass one more time in the race. And it was that very same style of pass, and it was the last one that he made. So he practiced that on the one and then used it with almost the race-winning move later on. But I thought it was great. I felt like he was sending him a message because he's basically saying, you're not coming down. If you're going anywhere, you're going into the wall.
Yeah, we're not playing with you anymore. Lap 214 here, we passed the 10 to get to 11th. At lap the 40, I think the 48 has an issue in here, and we gain a position based on that. He ends up on pit road. At lap 221 here, we passed the 43 to get to 9th. At lap 229 here, passing 239, 29, sorry, passes the 9 to get to 8th. At lap 231, passing the 54 to get to 7th. At lap 236, passing the 17 to get to 6th. Ryan says we're a little bit free here. Once again, he's kind of giving an update, knowing something's coming. At lap 237, the 22 pits, and Ryan gets to P5 in this green flag cycle beginning here. The 45 pits, the 20 pits, we're up to 3rd. At lap 242, we're 6.5 back of the leader. At lap 245 here, hits the wall a little bit here, gets a little stripe. The 24 pits. So now the 11 is the leader, Ryan is P2. And then the next lap, 2 laps, not 247, they both pit. So he comes in pitting from behind the 11. They both pit at the same time here. Lap 250, it sorts out to P14 with the 45 leading now. And this was a turning point for the 24. They played a strategy that in the first stage wouldn't have worked either if it had stayed green. And the second stage, they didn't learn nothing. Or at this point, they didn't learn nothing from it because it didn't work. It stayed green later on, and it didn't work for them. They ended up losing that time because you stay out longer than a lot of other guys, and they're going to get that 2 seconds a lap, second and a half lap faster, and they gain the position. Then they get in front of you, then it equals out. And if you didn't do enough of a gap in between, and you weren't fast enough, you're going to lose on it. That's where they blew it on strategy call more than anything else.
Which was surprising because his crew chief, Rudy Fugel, I mean, obviously they've been wildly successful together.
Mm-hmm.
He's a super smart guy. I'm surprised he didn't see this coming. And people thought that there's an opportunity here for the 24 to have a perfect race. And yeah, it doesn't happen for them. And yeah, man, they just kind of botched the strategy here, and a couple guys get around them, and that was it.
Yeah. So lap 254 here, P10, as the pitting is sorting out now, and at lap 255, passing the one car again, get to ninth. At lap 256, passes the 60 to get to eighth. Lap 258, passing the 9 to get to seventh. At lap 265, we passed the 11 to get to sixth. At lap 269, passing the 17 to get to fifth.
Can I tell you, interrupt you for a second?
Okay.
For once, it seems like this year, this isn't the first time Ryan has had a run like this at the end of a race.
Mhm.
And TV noticed. I feel like Clint Boyer was like all over the 12 this weekend.
Mhm.
And they were paying attention to this whole way through here, and I thought that was kind of awesome. Also, like, got me even more nervous and hopeful. Hopes were going through the roof at this point. So
this is where I start keeping track of some things too, because at lap 270, we passed the 22 to get to fourth, and it's 8.141 back of the leader, the 45, right? But he's a half a second a lap faster. So now I'm looking at number of laps, lap times, and will the gap close? Well, in other words, it only be 0.3 of a lap faster, 0.2 of a lap faster, So lap 278, past the 24 and the 20 to get to P2. So it only took about 7 or 8 laps to catch those guys, and those guys were 5 seconds back.
That was an awesome pass too. He just, like, you could just tell he's so much faster than him. He just drove on by.
Yeah. So now at this point, 5.179 back of the 45. At lap 282, 2.792 back. At lap 283, 2.142 back. Lap 286, 0.901 back. Lap 287, the next lap, all of a sudden it's 0.3 of a second back. That's it. He gained 0.6 of a lap.
At this point, all I can think in my head is hashtag Revenge of the 12, because you got the 45 out front, who passed him on the last lap at Homestead last year, broke all of our hearts in the playoffs there. I mean, he luckily won Martinsville the next week, but still, I was like, this is the first stop on the Revenge of the 12 tour, and here we go.
And then, tracked him down, and a lap or two later, but I got the lap numbers maybe right or wrong here, 289, 290 going into 1 and 2 there, and he gets by him. Like you said, of course, the 45 was totally loose at that point anyway, even though Ryan got to his left rear, and then everything just happens. Ryan makes the pass first off, right, and all I could think of at that point is just 3 or 4 more laps, click them off. Don't make your mistake like everybody else around you made. You put the pressure on. You made everybody make their mistakes. You made everybody use up their stuff. You've still got better stuff than any of them out there. Just give us those 3 or 4 more laps, just like you clicked off any other time he's done this. And then the 23 and the 5 situation happens literally right behind him. And
do we want to go through the end of the race here and then talk about this situation?
Yeah.
Or do we want to talk about
Well, no, because this situation leads to other situations, and then we got a pitting situation, and let's just be brief about it, okay? Everybody online has an opinion, right? And that's great. Everybody has given their opinion. Some of the opinions, I'm going to be opinionated myself. Some of the opinions are based on fact. Some of the opinions are based on fiction and emotion. And some of the opinions are based on.
I will say hate in their heart.
Yes, ignorance was a word I was going to use. Hate, and so forth. We went back and did a lot of looking at things. Data was posted right away, showed you something that was like, why would that guy hit the brakes like he did? The audio thing that I picked up from the Max service is kind of rough, and I say that because they don't have the audio matched exactly. He's saying to pull up way before it shows it on camera. Okay, but the audio it's matched. It's too matched up for some reason. It's not right. And he tells them to, check up. And he does check up. And Wallace is coming off of 2 like he did every other time. Now, the video I posted to TikTok, I showed you all the way back into turns 1 and 2 because I wanted you to see how quickly the 5 got by the 23 to begin with. He was on fresher tires, and he got by him way quickly. And then he let him catch up, basically. And he left him almost no room to make a move around him. He basically parked it. Now, you can go ahead and just, from there, like I said, a lot of people think the one way, the other way, the conspiracies. I don't think either guy wanted an accident to happen. I don't think.
No.
But I think the mistakes were made. Some people really are correct in saying that car shouldn't have been on the track at that point. And that's the one thing we were talking about before we started, and I was going to bring up, is that this new policy is great because it does give teams a chance to get out there, maybe make some points. But at the point that you can't make any more points, if you are stuck in a box, basically, your car needs to come off the track. If you are so many laps down and you're not going to gain on anybody else because there's not enough laps to make that gain, you got to come off the track. And that's probably what should have happened. That car shouldn't have been out there to begin with.
Well, here's the thing, and I didn't discover this myself until this morning. That happened before he even came back out on track. He's 160 laps down. There was nobody for him to pass except for the 44 car. People may have not picked up on this in the last several years. I'm not sure exactly when. I don't exactly remember when the points kind of system changed a little bit. From 37th on back, you earn 1 point for your finishing position. So the 5 gained no more points by coming back out on the track in this race. So that was I wrote down some notes here, and I don't want to go off too much because even if, we kind of follow by example sometimes. Skip on Stacking Pennies basically said he doesn't even care about this incident. It was a racing incident. We lost the race in other ways. But I'm still, and I know I am, and I know some other fans are fired up about it. So the number one, there's no points to gain at all. He never gained any points. People are like, oh, ask Carl Edwards what's it like to not have one more point. He didn't even get one more point. The 44 and the 5 both earned 1 point on the day. And when I found that out this morning, I almost died. Number 2, and his crew chief after the race talked to Jeff Gluck and said, we were just, we're out there, we're trying our best to stay out of everybody's way. We just want to stay out of everybody's way and, not mix it up with the leaders or anything. Why are you passing somebody? And it was a big pass. It was like a slider type pass. It was actually the same pass that Ryan did to get around the 23 as well. Why are you doing that with 3 or 4 laps to go if you're trying to stay out of everybody's way?
Yeah.
Number 3, and you mentioned, we haven't talked about it that much. So our Team Blaney social media, we posted the in-car cameras. We posted some other things. This last, 20 hours or so has been kind of insane for us, with kind of a lot of the posts kind of going viral. And I've just been inundated with comments. And one of the main ones was saying, well, one, this is Bubba's fault. It was 100% intentional. He wanted the 45 to have a chance to win the race, yada, yada, yada. The data comes out and shows that the 5 makes the pass, slams on the brakes hard, and the 23 runs into him. So people are like, yeah, that's true. He was checking up for the 45. Maybe he was doing it too much. But Bubba came all the way off the wall, down 2 lanes on purpose to try and hit the 5 anyway. The 5 just happened to break at that time, but the 23 was going to drive through him anyway. I went back with at least 15 laps to go in this race because, again, thank you, HBO Max, for having the in-car cameras, and watched Bubba Wallace run Darlington. Every single lap from lap 15 to go through passing Ryan Blaney until this incident. In 1 and 2, Bubba Wallace slid up on entry, rode the wall. On exit, came back down about 1.5 lanes on exit, and continued on down the straight. He did that every single time. He did that when the 12 car passed. The 12 car made it almost identical pass as the 5 did. The difference was the 12 kept motoring on, whereas the 5 slammed on his brakes and the 23 ran into him. So I tried to give people the video evidence. I tried to give people the data that was posted on Twitter. You've posted the audio of the 5 spotter yelling at him to check up, and then like after all of that, Bubbles needs Bubbles needs to be suspended is like the comments I'm still getting all the way up until currently right now as we're recording this podcast. And it's just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know you said you didn't want to spend a lot of time on this, but
Yeah.
it was a really frustrating day for me because of that, because you just see that you can give everybody all the information, all the facts, all the evidence, and the hate that they have like just blinds them. And it is what it is.
And you know that, like I said, I always like to try to accentuate positive things too. And what's bad about this whole situation is it wipes out everything, right? We get a different result based on everything. And one thing that it really wipes out, two things actually, is the strategy call. First off, Jonathan pitted late in that cycle. Him and the 11 went way late, right? The 11 did it for the same reason, except the 11 didn't have the car or the driver that the 12 does, right? And pitting way late in that cycle, that strategy call gave him 10-lap newer tires, 12-lap newer tires than a lot of those guys out there, and he was able to do something with it. He passed the 11 within a couple laps of getting back out there. No problem. And when they were on the same tires, if that tells you anything, right? So first off, it kind of makes everybody forget about Jonathan's call was super great call. And then two, everybody loses the fact of like what I just read off about boom, 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 pass, running him down. You know, he had a half a lap lead on Ryan early on in that run once Ryan got the tires, right? And then he cut it down to nothing. And all that gets forgotten, unfortunately, because of this situation. So I want everybody to remember those parts too of the race. All that stuff I read off of all those passes and all that stuff. Sure, he had to do it a couple different times because of other situations, but man, are they fast? Man, is that driver good? And boy, is that team really good. And they just, in a complete weekend, like next weekend when I'm there, we'll get it.
Yeah, and I said I made a post about this after I cooled down after I think a couple hours after the race that, in a team sport, sometimes the quarterback or sometimes somebody has to put the team on their back when they've had a tough day. And I felt like the driver of the 12 did that. And we were just a couple laps away from one of an iconic race win for him if this would have played out green the whole way. And we were robbed of that. I mean, the only solace I can have in it is that truly, again, this incident with the 23-5, all in everything that I was saying that I was passionate about all these facts and everything. My only point of like trying to point that out is just to stop people from their conspiracy theories and things, because it does just circle all the way back, even to what Skip says on Stacking Pennies. It was a racing incident. And that happens in racing. It happens all the time. And it happens. I mentioned, I think last week, talking about Casey Mears. Casey Mears lost. He's just top of mind because he just did this interview. 3 or 4 races in 1 year, basically the same exact way, dominating at the end, leading laps, and then a caution comes out and you don't win the race. So, I think Ryan maybe in one of his wins or something was on a benefactors or something like this, but for the majority of the time when this has happened, it's really bitten them when he had an opportunity here. And yeah, like you said, Hamlin himself, I think even said he had about an 8th place best car. They're just able to capitalize on the things that happened here. So let's talk about what ends up happening here, because there's more to talk about.
So yeah, here's the thing: so now everybody's going to come to pit road to get tires. Everybody has to, right? And Ryan's leading them down pit road. Now, the pit times, I'm going to use the NASCAR times that they had, okay? Skip gave different times once again. He says he's working on trying to get this uniform, okay? So Ryan comes down first, and the 45 goes past him. Everybody goes past him, actually, in this grouping of people. But Ryan's is a 10.10, and the 45's is a 10.12. So they've got almost the same exact pit time. Now, when Ryan pulls out of the box, he has to go out and around the 88, because the 88 is still on the lead lap, doing a very good job, actually. He finished 20th, I believe. He has to go out and around the 88. He literally, if you watch his in-car camera, and I think they put it on, like they put a split screen thing on one of the TikToks, NASCAR did. His in-car camera, he actually slides the back end, spins the tires a little bit. How much of a time thing is that? I don't know. minuscule bit of time, but as he gets to the 45 pulls out of his box and pulls out and moves Ryan over. Now,
He forces him.
Forces him
Yeah,
a little bit
Ryan.
over.
Ryan was to the inside of him slightly, but basically made Ryan decide: do you want to get wrecked or do you want to let me go?
Checks up just a hair, right? I mean, not enough, but just a hair. Now, mind you, that is part of your pit road running time too. And at the same time, now the 24 car does a 9.56, and the
In
11
the number
car,
one pit stall.
right, in the number one pit stall, which is that advantage. And then the 11 does this 9.42, and they both end up in front of the 45 and the 24. So, and Ryan even said in the post-race interview, he's not going to beat those guys, when he's starting fourth, basically, on the restart. So they do the restart, and all you could hope for at that point is a melee or another caution, and you're not, you didn't get that. You actually got some pretty decent racing near the front. The 11 taking the top, Ryan, the 24 taking the top. The Ryan was behind the 45 on the bottom. And the 11 wins, and Ryan ends up P5 in that grouping of things that happened. So it is a top 5 overall, showing what kind of speed they had and what they could do. It was a great day. And like I said, you can listen to Stacking Pennies, and Skip will tell you he's honest about it. He's not making excuses. They felt like they kicked themselves in their own butts and they hurt their driver. And he said that all we can do is work toward getting better next week. And what's funny about that is, like, you point out things like online when you're kind of like talking to people in the some of these messages, you'll say, hey, this team won 2 years ago, the championship, not just won a race or two, won the championship. These same people. And somebody was like making a comment like, well, that don't matter. It says yes and no. It matters because they have history, they have institutional knowledge of how to do it, right? So that does matter, that they know how to do it, right? And they just need to bring those things back to the table and do whatever it takes to get there. Too many people are so much about right now, and right now is, today wasn't, what we hoped it would be because we had a sniff of it, right? But where is it going to be in a couple months? So that's the thing. Learn the lessons now, right? And then improve upon them later.
Yeah, and the data's out there. I mean, there's nothing to shy away from. And like you said, Flores and the rest of the pit crew, they know the position that they're in. I saw the data today that said Ryan Blaney statistically has been the 4th best driver all year long. The pit crew has been the 24th ranked pit crew all year long. Now, yesterday, TV brought it up at point of the race. I think maybe even before that last pit stop that they were 35th on the day yesterday. Not surprising with the way things played out in the race, and they know it. So it shows you that they have a ton of speed. It also tells the team that they have to get to work, and that was the first thing he said. He said, we know what we have to do. We're professionals. We have to get to work. And I brought up that situation where I said another pit crew is out there, another pit crew group, essentially, JGR and 2311 has innovated the stop, and they've gotten consistently good at it. And unfortunately, the Penske teams are in a position where they have to evolve themselves. And I don't know whether they'll take a look at this and say, we need to do this immediately. They may already be, I bet you, they may already be messing with this on the side in pit practice, and they just haven't brought it out. Much like that, everyone around the front, they practice that in pit practice. They just never brought it to the track. So this is the same pit crew that was brought in the last time everybody went crazy and said everybody needed replaced. So they did make changes. And guess what? They started winning races, and then they won a championship with this pit crew. Last year, they weren't the fastest crew on pit road, but they were incredibly consistent, and they worked hard, and they got into that like 9. Now, again, we talked about the times being weird, but into that like 9 sub 10-second stop range consistently that would essentially keep Ryan in the position he is when he came in, or maybe lose one spot here or there. That's kind of the team that they've been the last couple of years. Have they been the pit crew like the 11, who I will mention? The 11 crew makes a lot of big mistakes, but they also bust off some of the fastest stops on pit road as well. They did that yesterday. But the Penske teams, again, have been all more about consistency. Ryan's crew has never been the crew that's going to gain him 2 and 3 spots every single time they come on pit road. All I'm asking for, and I think, most of us want, is just to see that consistency, to see them evolve, to see them get better. That's definitely going to be their goal, and that's all they can really say. I mean, I'm not a pit crew expert, a pit coach. I can't tell you what they're doing wrong or what they need to improve on. Good news is they know. They just have to execute.
The only thing I will say, this is about the people who are such critics, and then I'm tired of that, because there are very few guys who can do it, and very few guys who can do it well, and none of these guys try to make a mistake. Okay, nobody out there is saying, "Oh, let me see if I can screw this up today." Every one of those guys is trying to execute their job as best they can and work together and get it done. And sometimes you have a bad stop and it snowballs into another bad stop. And Skip actually said that today on his podcast, that sometimes it can be that kind of thing. But once again, one of the 2 pit stops that gave him such bad time yesterday was on Ryan. Ryan going past the sign caused a 15-second stop. That was on him. And he admits it, And once again, the guys from the pit crew, Skip being on his own podcast every week is an amazing thing, because he'll go out and he'll admit it. He'll tell you exactly what happened. I gotta watch, I listen to his podcast. I gotta find the video version when it comes out, because they actually show you the videos and he'll point out on the videos what's going on. So we'll have to I have to start doing that too when I can. So, but don't get on these guys just because you're mad about it. Understand they're trying to do it right. Every time out, they're trying to do it right. And until you can actually do it, I don't want to hear about it. I'm 56 years old, and I know I can't do it anymore, right? But when I was that age, I couldn't do it. And I was an athlete when I was younger. So,
yeah, all I can say, as fans, it's completely out of our control. We can say whatever we want on social media. The other, fact of the matter is, this is professional sports. Those pit crews are run more like a professional sports organization than ever before. So if there's a point when Penske thinks they need to make a change, they'll make a change. But I'm hoping they can keep this core group together, because they found a way to come together and get good and get consistent over the last couple of years. I think they just need that opportunity. So thanks, Steve. I feel like we kind of got through it. I did feel like there's points in the recap where there's some passion was put out, maybe that I didn't expect to do, but I was worried about getting through this one just in the first place, because there were so many emotions yesterday. So I mean, maybe that's a part of why people love sports too, because you have these super highs, you have these super lows, and you always know that there's an opportunity for another high. We thought we had that yesterday, and it was kind of taken away from us. But
that's all right. I'll get it this weekend in Bristol.
Yeah, at Bristol. On paper, though, it's one of those funny things. If you didn't watch the race and you pull up the scorecard and you see, oh, the 12 teams started in the top 10, that's great. That's an improvement. Oh, they got stage points and they improved their position in both stages. That's awesome. Oh, a top 5. Guy's never gotten a top 5 in his entire career at Darlington Raceway. Wow. Great. Awesome. That's not how we feel. but I think after a couple of weeks, we might feel that way.
Bodes well for the Southern 500 later in the year, right?
Yeah. So taking a look at the NASCAR Cup Series point standings, oddly enough, Ryan moved up 3 positions in the point standings, but loses points because that 24 car dominated now, 80% of this race. Yep. So he actually, it brings his gap up a little bit more at the top of the point standing. So the top 10 are as follows: Byron in first, 49 points over Denny Hamlin, who has now won back-to-back. So he's in the second position in the standings. Christopher Bell, his JGR teammate, is in third, 52 back. Then you got Chase Elliott in fourth, Tyler Reddick in fifth, our buddy Kyle Larson in sixth, 71 points back, and Ryan Blaney is now minus 79 to the leader in the seventh position. Bubba Wallace in eighth, regardless of what happened yesterday, still having a great year with the 23 team. Teammate Joey Logano is in ninth, and rounding out the top 10, down 5 spots. I believe he had a tire issue at some point during this race. Is Alex Bowman in 10th, 88 points back. So going into this race, Ryan was in the 60s back, so he did lose, a pretty significant amount in this race, despite the fact that I mentioned stage points in stage 1, great stage points in stage 2, and a top 5 finish. But everybody ahead of him mostly everybody ahead of him had a really good race, and some of them, Hamlin and Bell specifically, really benefited from that one caution coming out and it flipping the track position for everybody. So that's where we stand in the NASCAR Cup Series point standings after the race at Darlington Raceway. We have one more thing to clean up on the weekend, and that involves the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. We did give people a peek behind our starting lineups in our little pre-race live chat on Sunday, but we'll go through who we started again. I had a really strong starting lineup, and I had a really terrible luck in the featured matchups, if you want to call it that, though you will point out that you also had terrible luck in the featured matchups and finished top 10, but guess what? Don't care. Team Blaney host Adam, my team, finished 27th overall with 203 points earned on the weekend. I started William Byron, the winner, got a ton of points, 56. This was the dud in my lineup here that if I wasn't caught up with what was happening with Ryan, I would have messed around with my garage. Chase Briscoe, the winner of the Southern 500, in a JGR car. Gosh, it's definitely going to be a lock for a top 10. Nope. Only got me 9 points. Denny Hamlin, the race winner, got me 48. Tyler Reddick, 41. Bell, 39. And I had Kyle Busch in the garage. So I left 27 points in the garage. If I had been paying a little bit more attention and I flipped Busch and Briscoe, I would have finished in the top 10 this week, about midway through the top 10. But it didn't happen. That's okay. Featured matchups. I had Logano over Chastain. That was wrong. I had Byron over Hamlin. That was wrong. I had Busch over Gibbs. That was wrong. I had Elliott over Bubba Wallace, and that ended up being my only correct pick in the featured matchup. So again, 27th overall for me, 203 points earned. You had a good week. Congratulations.
Yeah. I made, I had to make my garage move quickly early because I had the 5 car in the lineup. I don't care where he qualifies. He's going to get up there, right? No, not so much. So
not in this race.
Quickly moved him to the garage. Didn't have to worry about him the rest of the day, but also didn't have to worry about looking at my lineup the rest of the day either. Usually what I like to do is look at who got stage points in stage 1, who was looking to get stage points near the end of stage 2, and then make a move according to that sometimes too. So I had the 23. He was worth 25 points. I had the 12 worth 43 points. I had the 11 for 48 points. The 45 was worth 41 points. And then here's the big one. If you had the 24 car, he was worth 56 points.
Yep.
Matchup, same situation here. I had Logano, and that was wrong. I had Denny Hamlin, and that was right. That was my one victory. I had Kyle Busch. That was wrong. I had Bubba Wallace. That was wrong. So I only got 10 points out of the matchups. If I would have had 2 more of them, I would have won this week.
So let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned this weekend in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League from Darlington Raceway. Kicks off with a tie for 10th. That's Queen of the Caniacs and Penske Fan 24 at 217 points earned. My wife, Rogers T, is in the 9th position, 218. We have a tie for 7th with Alyssa C and Pit Stop Pro at 219. Then we have your team, Mez 12 and 6 with 223 points on the weekend. Our friend Jordan Daniels in 5th at 227. Blaney-Ack 10-12 in 4th at 233 points. The Daisy Dukes is in a tie for 2nd with Abby NNK, 235 points. And then Blaniacal led the way this weekend, 245 points earned on the weekend. So congratulations to Blaniacal on the win. Now let's take a look at the overall standings. My team is where it usually is, hovering around the 40s. 45th overall, 1,391 points earned. Your team, Mez 12, has fallen a little bit over the last few weeks, despite a good showing. You fell down a lot more. I think you've creeped back up.
I jumped back up this week. Yeah.
So to 12th overall, Mez 12, 1,511 points. So it brings us to the top 10 overall. Dr. Race Chaser in 10th, 1,518. We have a tie for 8th with Penske Fan 24 and Fike 21 at 1,524 points. And 7th, it's Bulldog 0277, 1,539. Blaney this week's weekend winner was in 6th overall, 1,553. 5th is Pit Stop Pro, 1,555. Jordan Daniels is in 4th, 1,565 points. In 2nd, it's Vans 12, 1,591 points. And then Go 12 Go is in 2nd. Or sorry, Vans 12 is in 3rd. Go 12 Go is in 2nd, 1,602 points. And this is tight, folks. Alyssa C in the first position, 1,603. 1 point is the difference between 1st and 2nd so far in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And that brings us now to this weekend's race for the NASCAR National Series. And that kicks off on Friday, April 11th at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Time. You have practice for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. You can watch that on FS2 if you have it. Probably not going to do that. They have their qualifying, and then they have their truck race, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, FS1, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio if you want to take a listen to that. I would recommend any race this weekend that they have at Bristol. You're going to want to tune into because it's usually action-packed. So 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time is the Bristol Motor Speedway NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race. Saturday, Xfinity has practice and qualifying earlier in the day. 2 p.m. Eastern Time is when the NASCAR Cup Series hits practice on Prime, followed at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time. They have qualifying from Bristol, again, streaming on Prime. The NASCAR Xfinity Series race is in the evening, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You have the SciAps 300 at Bristol. You can watch that on the CW. You can listen to that on PRN and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Then that brings us to Sunday, April 13th, the Food City 500 from Bristol Motor Speedway, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch it on FS1. You can listen to it on PRN or SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, and you can watch the in-car cameras if you have the subscription on Max, and I would highly recommend it. Let's take a look at Ryan Blaney's record at Bristol Motor Speedway in the NASCAR Cup Series. 16 starts, average start of 9.3, pretty decent. Actually won the pole for this race last year. This race was insane. Average finish of 18.6, unfortunately. 2 DNFs, but he does have 6 top 10s, 2 top 5s. A majority of that, except for the fall race, mostly came in the previous generation of car. So it's been a little bit of struggle on the next gen car for Ryan Blaney at Bristol. He has finishes of, now again, also keep in mind, Bristol was dirt for part of that experience as well. So the stats are off a little bit. But at least, yeah, yeah, that's true. But at least in the next gen era on Bristol, on asphalt or on the concrete, 30th, ouch, 22nd, 16th in the spring race last year, but he did finish 6th in the night race in the fall. Again, mentioned that he sat on the pole, had a ton of speed ahead of this race in the spring last year, but the race was
that
chaos.
was because they allegedly had the same tire compound. Allegedly,
yeah, same tire as the fall.
Allegedly. I think they were trying something out, and they didn't want people to know they were trying it out. They want to throw a big curveball at everybody, and it curved. It curved hard. Tires were shredding after 15 and 20 laps last year. No. That whole spring race last year was a debacle, and they should have been embarrassed by it. But they tried to cover it all up, saying, "Oh no, these are the same tires." No,
people loved it though.
No,
TV loved it. Podcast loved it.
The only thing that would have been good is if the teams would have been prepared for it. It's one thing to know that you have that type of tire and prepare for it and prepare the cars for it and minimize that damage of the thing shredding the way they were shredding. The reason they were shredding the way they were is because they were not prepared for that tire to do that. That's what it comes down to. The give is great. The wear and tear is fine. The losing of speed over a certain number of laps is fabulous. It gets comers at goers. It gives Ryan a chance to race the way he races. He's great at tire conservation. But the thing is none of those teams knew it, and not all the teams got the same exact tire at the same exact time. and they said it was the tire that they had used at Martinsville the previous year. I don't think it was. That's all I'm saying.
Well, all we know, started on the pole, did not really have that great of a race, finished 16th, but he did get that top 10 in the fall race there. Allegedly still with the same tire compounds, different weather, different time of year.
That's what I'm saying. In the fall, the conditions were almost the same. It got a little bit cold after it went dark, but it was almost the same conditions. So, because I was at both of them last year, so
So I'll take a look at least the fall race here, since that's probably the one we're going to want to compare things to, because I don't think we'll see that same chaos now. Kyle Larson won the night race, followed by Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Ryan Preece, Chase Briscoe, Alex Bowman, and Ross Chastain. That was your top 10. We just talked about fantasy and our starting lineups and things there. Is there anybody heading into Bristol that, even without seeing him practice and qualifying, or probably somebody you're going to want in your lineup, or are you going to be waiting until Saturday to see how things go?
I usually will wait till Saturday, but knowing how Ryan qualified last year, and then, like I said, the fall race was run, properly, and he ran really well. The only thing that happened in the fall race, it got down to some long runs where guys they get strung out, and nobody could make time on anybody else. So that's the only thing I'd like to see is 20 and 30 lap averages in practice to see if anybody over a long run is a lot better than anybody else. In the spring, Ryan was. In the fall, everybody was a little bit closer together on those long run averages. So definitely would look at him, Larson, Byron, look at the guys up near the top. I don't see any surprise guys jumping in there. Bell will be another one to look at. And of course, Hamlin's been so successful there the last couple of years and right now he's on a heater. So, even though he backed into this one last week, Hamlin just runs well there. So, it's all the usual suspects, unless somebody shows up and really does something weird, like the 77 is half a second faster than everybody in practice or something,
Something tells me Chase Elliott this weekend. I don't know what it is. He had a top 5 in the fall. He's run well there in the past. He's had issues there in the past and stopped somebody from winning. He's the guy's due for a win. He's in the top 10 in the point standings. They've been super consistent most of the year. And I think it may have been, I think actually before we started recording, some of the people in the chat, I just mentioned that. And despite how he feels about the sport or the way he should be promoting the sport, I think it's good for the sport if Chase Elliott starts winning some races. I will point out that is only if the 12 car is not in contention for the win. Always 12 first. But if we're just talking about the overall good of the sport, it'd be good to see him get to victory lane. And maybe if he starts winning some more again, it'll energize him a little bit more. Because honestly, since he won that championship, and Larson came over to Hendrick and it's kind of taken the spotlight away. Some of that, even if I'm going back to his psychology, maybe that has something to do with some of this. So I don't know what it is. Something about Chase Elliott, something about even Josh Berry. We're on a short track again. I know it's a much different short track, and I may have mentioned this last week or in our chats. It's super weird to see the 21 car as a contender every week now. Even in practice, you're mentioning how fast they were. So, wow. You just don't know when they're going to pop up, and they already got that one win, so he could get another one. So this week, Bristol, if you want to tune in again, Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, you can watch the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Weather Guard Truck Race. Saturday, you have practice at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Prime for the NASCAR Cup Series, and 3:05 p.m. Eastern time, you have qualifying also on Prime. The Xfinity Series race, 5 p.m., the SIAPS 300 on the CW. Again, if you don't usually tune into the lower series races, I feel like the people watching us probably do, though. You should be watching those races. They're a lot of fun mostly. Might want to skip Martinsville for the Xfinity Series. But for the most part, great racing. Sunday, April 13th, 3 p.m. Eastern time on FS1, on Sirius XM, listening on the radio on PRN, the Food City 500, Bristol Motor Speedway. That's not the only attraction of the week. I understand Team Mez is going to be there. Where can people find you?
Well, wherever the tweet up is, usually it's at the top of the hill in front of the a thing there at the their what do they call that? Their offices are up there at the top of the hill, and they have that nice store up there. Yeah,
big ticket office.
That's the best. That's the best place to catch us because I always try to make every tweet up. There's some nice rocking chairs inside there that the wife likes to sit at while I'm out doing my golden retriever thing. You know, go ahead, go play, go. So I run around, and you know, we should have these on us. So just come up and ask for one, and I'll try to make a couple up that are magnets too. I think I still have some of the magnetic stuff put on them if you want to, like, put it on your on your thing. I have to get one or two of these to Ryan so he can put it on his fridge, right? Like,
he's a new version. He's got the old one that I have over my shoulder over here. He needs to get the new one. So
so
if you're at Bristol, stop by and say hi to Steve. Yeah,
over there rubbing elbows with big wigs. You know, let's see who finds us first. The wife wants to put that in there too. Let's see who can find us first. And you know, but she's easier to find than me. She's prettier, and you know, I just kind of blend in with the other guys there with bald heads.
So onward and upward to Bristol Motor Speedway this weekend. The 12 team has rebounded. They've had a couple decent runs in a row. Again, they scored that top 5 this past weekend, just a couple laps away from winning the race. So much like I've said about several other people, said it about Josh Berry, if you run in the top 5, if you get stage points, if you are up front, if you can execute, you will win races. And I'm pretty confident that 12 team will win a race sooner than later. But I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode of the Team Blaney podcast. Thank you everyone for tuning in during the week and on race day. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. But for now, and for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast. Good night.
Good night, Vancouver. Check out the TikTok.